much, everyone, for staying with us. The Court of Appeal, Abuja, today has reversed the nullification of the candidacy of Chief Timipre Sylva of the All Progressives Congress, APC. Justice Binta Zubairu, who delivered the lead judgment, held that Justice Donatus Okoro of the Federal High Court was wrong in ordering the sack of Sylva as a candidate of the APC in the November 11 governorship election in Bayelsa State. And these are the grounds upon which the appellate court thought that the trial court erred in having to assume jurisdiction in the matter on the grounds that the plaintiff and the Federal High Court lacked the necessary local standard and that he doesn't have a business, in simple terms, to initiate the suit in the first place. Having not participated in the primary election that produced Mr. Sylva as a flag bearer of the APC in the forthcoming election, the appellate court said the issue of jurisdiction is fundamental in an election matter, and since the lower court had no jurisdiction in the first place, all actions taken in the matter are declared nullity. Well, INEC has since removed Mr. Sylva's name from the ballot. But tonight, I have joining me Chief Timipre Sylva, the APC governorship candidate in Bayelsa State. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations by being in order for at least having that victory today, isn't it? How does it feel?
It is. Well, I just feel relieved. I mean, because it was very confusing when that judgment came, but I feel very relieved today.
I mean, you thought you lost it all, isn't it?
No, I was confused because, I mean, you know, the judiciary had said before, concerning me personally, I went to court challenging Governor Dixon at that time, challenging the primaries of Governor Dixon at that time. And the Supreme Court held that I did not have locus because I did not participate in that primary. That is a classical case now that is being quoted in the judiciary today. For me to go, and then for somebody who did not participate in an election, to just somebody I hardly know even as a member of the party, to now come and then challenge my primaries, and for a court also to now hold that it was in order, it was a little bit confusing because I didn't think that a judge will do that. I mean, because it's the same judiciary. I mean, if the Supreme Court already said that before, concerning me personally, and then a judge was saying something different, it was a little bit confused. That's what confused me.
Do you think anything went wrong?
I cannot say. I cannot say, but it was really confusing.
You don't think that based on the merits of it, the judge could have given its own the judgment based on how it says it?
No. That was, look, like the appeal court said today, the issue of jurisdiction is very fundamental. The issue of local standard is very fundamental. If not, there will be chaos in the whole society. If I come and challenge actions of your wife, because, I mean, I'm just an interested party, that really won't work. I mean, you must have locus in the circumstance before you can take a matter to court. But somebody that didn't participate, somebody that is hardly known to be a member of the party, just comes and challenges a situation, and then a judgment is given to him. It was very confusing. But I think today, the judiciary has vindicated itself.
The issue of local standard when it comes to electoral law and electoral matters seems to be slightly different from general common law, because that's exactly our laws have now said you have to be part of it as part of the electoral process. You have to be part before you have the locus to be able to take. I mean, that being rested. I mean, it does look, when your name was removed, that this like a fait accompli on one hand. You are not able to go to the poll, and your party might be missing the opportunity of having the opportunity to run in the race. And the last time around, Mr. David Lyon won the election, was going to be sworn in. Few hours before he's sworn in, he was removed from office, and a lot of people are wondering, is happening again? Thunder striking in the same spot twice.
Yeah, exactly. That was actually very disturbing. It was becoming something that we saw as a pattern, but this has rested that. The PDP is afraid of this election, very clearly.
Why do you think so?
Oh, because they have not done very well. And they know from even the campaigns, everybody can see very clearly if you go to Bayelsa, it's almost clear to everyone that the election is already won by the APC.
Well, they are the ones even saying that you are the one that afraid that you are threatening violence.
No. How? Because look, how have I threatened violence?
Your deputy is said to have been threatening violence.
What my deputy said was very clear. What my deputy said in that case was that if people came to misbehave, because we know what they are planning, we know that they are planning violence. And if anybody comes to plan violence, then we should also make sure that we give it to them. Of course, the PDP even, just a few days ago, somebody said, oh, that if you try to, but a lot of them are coming over to the APC in droves. And one Stephen Diver, one of a senior PDP man, went to his community and said, if people move from PDP to APC, they should be burnt. I mean, who is threatening violence?
Why is this kind of narrative going on in Bayelsa?
It's very sad, but frankly, it is not the APC that is planning violence. It is the PDP that is clearly planning violence. And of course, that's why, because they are afraid of the election, they are shopping for any forum to ensure that I am not on the ballot.
But there are those who will say that you are not out of the woods just yet. That the meat of the matter was not dealt with by the appellate court. The fact that if should Temipre Sylva win the election, he would be spending more time prescribed by law in office, and he would have sworn oath more than the prescribed times by the Constitution of the Federal Republic.
Well, that sounds to me like beating a child and telling the child not to cry, or beating him again for crying. It was the courts. I had an election. It was the courts that declared my election null and void, and said that election, in fact, in that case, the court said the election did not hold. We should see it as if the election never held. And the court ordered a fresh election to be held. So we went back to the to election. So the court actually was the one that made me to go for that election. And now you beat me with one hand, and then now I'm crying, and then you say, no, why are you crying?
You don't think that you have sworn an oath?
No. That oath, as far as the law is concerned, has been nullified, because the court nullified the election and asked for a fresh election. And I went back, and in that case, if the Supreme Court held, even in my case, in the case of the 5 governors, that in fact I was not supposed to have taken another oath anymore, because that oath, then the Supreme Court declared the second oath superfluous. That means that
they believe that you have taken one.
Exactly, I've taken one, and that the next vote was not necessary.
And the same thing applies. I mean, why are Bayelsa people locked in these?
And look at it this way, yeah. There's also a moral issue. 5 governors were involved in the situation. 5 governors. It was not me alone. Murtala Nyako of Adama Waden, Wamako of Sokoto, and 5 governors, all four of them came back and did a second term. 4 governors out of 5. Why is mine different? That is the moral issue. Now, there is also the issue of Yobe State, where the deputy died. The governor spent the outstanding time of the tenure, ran for election, served the first tenure and a second tenure. Yobe State. So why is mine different?
So you don't think anything is wrong if should he be elected and you would have spent about 9 years in office?
It is seen in law, as far as I'm concerned, as if whatever I spent that time, it was, they said, the Supreme Court held then, the issue of the jure and de facto was also discussed in the Supreme Court. They said whatever action that was taken after the election that was nullified, I was only there as a de facto governor, not a de jure governor.
Yeah.
So as far as they are concerned, I was not a governor then. The Supreme Court held that. already. So I was only a de facto governor, not a de jure governor. So if I'm coming, but of course this is for the courts to decide. So, but I don't want to go into all the legalities.
So are you worried that anybody could come up again before this election to say, well, the appellate court did not deal in the meat of the matter, did not deal in the facts of the matter?
I'm also expecting,
because former President Goodluck Jonathan was also caught up in that kind of web legally. They say, look, you have spent a number of time in office. If you were elected, you would have spent more than the 8 years that is envisaged by the Constitution.
Yeah, of course, we expect that this is going to end up at the Supreme Court. So, of course, a decision will be taken. And I don't see the decision.
You don't think it's going to affect your chances at the post, too?
No, definitely.
In terms of how the people say it, will Bayelsa people not say that voting Sylva might be a wasted effort?
Oh, come on. No.
What are you telling your voters?
Already somebody took it to court, and the lower court already decided it. There were 2 cases, one by someone who participated in the primaries, a second one by someone who did not participate in the primaries. The one that was filed by the one that took part in the primaries was decided on the merits, and the issue of whether I was qualified to contest has already been decided at the lower court. So, in that case.
So in this sense now, there are, I mean, your name comes up even in the law of evidence when you talk about electronic evidence and computer-based. It's one of the locus classicals of that case, whether or not how you can bring it up. And it was a China's television tape actually that was, I mean, this is captured when the Evidence Act is being worked upon. So, but the question is that, so you are not new to court processes, court cases, and all of that. But what are you telling the voters in Bayelsa State? Those who will be asking the question, you've been a governor before, you've been a minister. What are you going back to look for in the government house this time around?
Well, I'm bringing experience back. I've been a governor. I've been a minister. That's really why I should be going back now as governor, because I'm bringing experience that none of them have. But in other words, let me also say this. Look, I was governor. I left as governor. And frankly, at some point, I never thought I'll go back as governor anymore. But if you go to Bayelsa State, then you will know exactly why I must come back, because the place is in a mess. Look, I had a lot of programs, one of which was to ensure that power was stabilized. I wanted to be the first state in Nigeria to stabilize power. And I was on course. I had the turbines, the gas turbines, in the country. One had been installed, 2 were to be installed. Now, I left as governor. So I don't know if you realize, and you should ask this question. Those turbines, I heard, were sold.
By who?
By the government that took over from me. And I keep asking the question. Did they sell the turbines because they feel Bayelsans don't need the turbines? Why were the turbines sold? Why is the state still in this situation of no power? Now, I built a library in Yenagoa. And today, Bayelsa still does not have a library because the government after me decided not to activate the library, to utilize the library. It's overgrown. I built health centers, equipped them. The government that took over from me refused to utilize the health centers because they don't want anything to be credited to me. They had a state policy to demonize me and not to do anything that was going to give me some credit. So looking at the state has not moved forward because of this kind of situation. All the plans I had were not carried on. And you know, for a state to grow, there must be growth year on year. And of course, from Lagos State has had it very lucky because of continuity. You know, this governor stops here, The next governor takes off from there, takes it to this point. And President Bola Tinubu ensured that, and that's why Lagos State has gotten to where it is. In Bayelsa State, it has not been so. So I want to be able to go there and bring closure to all the plans that I had as governor. I have just 4 years to be, I have to be elected 4 years, of course, so that's what I expect. And then, of course, after that, I believe that it will give me time to bring closure to all my plans in Bayelsa State.
I mean, there are those who will give the narrative in Bayelsa State of the state of things as 8 local government areas in Bayelsa State. It has 3 senatorial districts, just like any other state. The Kano State has 3 senatorial districts. Kaduna, Lagos State, they are larger than Bayelsa State in terms of land mass. But you look at
in terms of land mass, they are not large.
I mean, what?
Yeah. Maybe population. Yeah,
that's a population, but you know, the better part of Bayelsa State is.
Water is part of the land mass. Yeah.
So, but the question here is that the livelihoods of the people of Bayelsa State and the kind of money as an oil-producing state that has gone into that state is not evident. And those who get there have blamed those of you who have ruled that state, have governed that state in the past. And the question will be, for those of you, isn't that indictment the fact that those of you who have run that state, just about 5 of you, is it not an indictment
you must say
to the quality of life of the people of that state?
I agree. I mean, I will come to that. But you see, you must also, when people say, Bayelsa has 8 local governments, or it's a small state. Yeah, it's easy to say that. But the terrain,
because, sorry, you will imagine, so just a moment, this is a perspective, that you will imagine that resources could be easier in administration. It could be easier to, other than, I mean, compared to the state that have more local government, or if you have slimmer local government, you might be able to distribute wealth and administer some of these things easily. But Bayelsa's case is not the case.
But that's why you will listen to Michelle. I was making a point.
Go ahead.
I was saying that, look, yes, it looks that way on the face value. But in terms of terrain, Bayelsa is one of the most difficult terrains. You know, for example, in a landed state like any other state, and most states, you can have one school that can serve a lot of people. But in Bayelsa is made up of small islands. Small islands. In fact, to travel within a local government, you can travel by boat at least 2 hours by a fast boat to get from one community to another community, and you are still within one local government, and you are in a boat. So now, I'm just giving you an idea. So now you have a situation where you have a small island with a community on that island. And that island probably has maybe a population of 5,000, 6,000 people in the community. Now, you need to give a school to them, because if you don't give them a school, it means that they have to get in a canoe or in a boat to go to school on a different island. So now you give a school here to this island, and here on this island, there are only 6,000 people. And a school with a full complement of teachers, you have to give them a full complement of teachers. All the laboratory, library, everything in this school. Now you go to that school, the student population in that school may not be up to 1,000, or 1,000 is a very large number. It may not even be up to 500. I've been to a school, the student population was at 52. And you have to give a full complement of teachers to these 52 students. So you have a situation like that. So it's not a very easy situation where you have a large number of teachers looking after a small number of students, for example. So you can, and you have to have schools in all these communities. So it's
complicated.
Yeah,
but what are you going to do differently? Should you be elected?
And then
what
also,
are you going? Also, how are you hoping to fix this?
And you look at the terrain also. You look at the terrain. The road construction is challenging. I don't have a road to my place, for example. To get to my place, you have to drive by boat at least 1 hour, 30 minutes to get to my village where I come from. And it's a challenge because to do a road to my place, it's the cost of it. The cost of it, the bridges that you have to cross, is not normal. And even when you cross the bridge, it's not as if you're on solid ground, it's on marshy ground. You have to also be.
So you're asking for a difficult job.
So
right
yeah.
now,
So
right?
what am I going
Isn't
to?
It?
No, yeah, definitely. No, but you see, that's why you need somebody like me with the experience to do that. That's why the government is fumbling, because look, you know, in governance, you need to have a learning curve. I've got that learning curve, and I've also gotten the exposure because of the other positions that I've held, and I know how to handle this. So I have the exposure and I have the experience.
And you think that the present governor
so
does
now,
not?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have the experience that I have.
He's also been a governor.
No, he's been a governor, but he's not been a minister of state. Well, so I'm saying he was a senator for how long? Well, I don't want to go into all those details, but the fact is that I had a clear plan. I had a very clear plan, which I believe will be able to mitigate against some of these problems that we have. For example, schools. How do we do it? How do we have this large number of schools? And how do we take care of all this? And how do we produce results? Because the important thing is to get your people properly educated. If you go around to schools now, the schools are probably too many. I don't know why, but the schools are in a very bad way.
And also, if you look at I mean, you know by now that I've covered elections severally in Bayelsa State, and I've also traveled on the water several hours covering election in those, and you see abject poverty.
Yeah.
Simple sanitary infrastructure are not there. People use the water for almost everything they do. And you wonder, what would you be telling the people of Bayelsa State
for
today?
example,
that Timi Silva being on the ballot, this is at the specifics. Can you give us three that will better their lives tonight?
No. I have. That's why I have a very clear agenda. My agenda is out there. It's the high gaps agenda. The governor, I challenge him, let him also bring his agenda. He doesn't have. Look, I have a 6-point agenda because I've looked at the problems.
You call them the high agenda.
High gaps agenda. Now, the governor doesn't have this. And I have looked at the problem in Bayelsa over the period, and I've seen that the solution would be to implement this agenda. The agenda, high gaps. The H stands for human capital development. That involves education. We have to educate our people because that is the first thing that we must do, educate and develop them. I believe that the human person must be seen as a resource that must be developed.
How do you do this?
No. Educating them is a way of developing them.
How do you do it? Because you have said that.
Giving them skills.
In what manner? Is there anything special that you are doing? Are there special kind of education you are bringing? Or it's just a normal kind of education on schools that you're talking about?
Let me tell you how I'm going to achieve that. Look, today, as I told you, you have small schools everywhere. And there is a problem because most of these students, I mean, you can get the statistics. What is our success rate in WAEC, for example? That must be available to you. If you have a situation where you have these small schools, the small schools are not being looked after properly because they are probably too much for the government to look after.
What would you do about that?
So now, you will listen to me, Shehu. Yeah. So now, if because the schools are not being looked after, we have a problem. The problem is that there is a lot of people who do not make it at WAEC because the facilities that would help them to make it during the exam are not just available in the schools. So now you have a dropout population, a growing dropout population. And I call them the stranded population. They come out of school, they don't pass, and then they need 5 credits to get to the next level of education. And they are also not employable. So, I mean, they are stranded. They cannot be employed since they failed out of WAEC, they cannot move forward. So now what I want to do is that we're going to look at catchment area. I already started that. We look at catchment area. We build junior secondary schools, primary schools and junior secondary schools on these small islands. And then we build big secondary schools or senior secondary school. So that when we now have, because in primary school, the child is too young to leave his community, to let him school there. Junior secondary school is too young to leave. So let him also live there, let him school there. When he gets beyond junior secondary school, he will move to a big secondary school, and it will be a boarding school, because they are all going to, people are going to be coming out of their villages. So we build these big secondary schools so that we can now create all the facilities in these big secondary schools.
So because I'm totally out of time, but just in 30 seconds, a lot of water, that in some other climes, that is a lot of money.
Yeah, I agree.
The Bayelsa people should not be living in poverty.
I agree.
In 30 seconds, how do you turn the water around Bayelsa into wealth? Well,
if you had allowed me to go through my agenda, if time had allowed us, I would have told you that there is already a point of the agenda that deals with this. We have 185 kilometers of coastline in Bayelsa State, the longest in the whole of Nigeria. Bayelsa actually houses a fishing ground of the Atlantic Ocean. You can ask everybody. If a trawler leaves Lagos, it is likely heading for Bayelsa, because that is where the fishing ground is. We are going to really, the only people that are unfortunately not fishing there are Bayelsans. Russian trawlers come to fish off the coast of Bayelsa. Chinese trawlers come to fish off the coast of Bayelsa. So what we want to do is actually to build that economy. We're going to really go into trawling, and we want to be the biggest fish producer in Nigeria. And then we will also turn the swamps that we have into rice paddies, because we are going to, because rice also grows better in swamps. So we will also concentrate on production of rice, production of fish. We're going to be the biggest.
Should you win the election, we'll hold you on to some
I will win the election, not should I.
You seem too confident. They said that you are using the federal might to do that, isn't it? That is what is being said on the ground. But we're totally out of time. Thank you so much, Chief Timmy Sylva, APC governorship candidate in Bayelsa, and I wish you the very best in the race. Congratulations again on your victory today.